This is my research of the history of Oak Ridge. I will be breaking down the paper I did on the same subject. But what are the reasons I have for choosing Oak Ridge? Well, you see, at some point, my brother actually went there at an internship. But outside that, I have never actually explored the history of Oak Ridge, let alone East Tennessee. I guess there's a valid reason why. But you see, in history class, I always heard of it, like, yes, Oak Ridge, that's a thing in World War II history. So I just wanted to see World War II from the eyes of Tennesseans, from the various primary sources I have. The introduction starts off by saying that World War II is coming to an end, and a different plan is being put into play, and that is the atomic bomb. And Oak Ridge itself will actually be chosen to help develop the atomic bomb. Oak Ridge itself is actually located northwest of Knoxville, mostly in Anderson County. It consists of 60,000 acres and now houses 30,000 people, all because of the Manhattan Project. Pretty much General Leslie Groves selected Oak Ridge because of its general isolation from most population centers. And it's East Tennessee, so it's very mountainous. And in case this experimental technology were to get out of control, we wouldn't have to destroy entire population centers, so on and so forth. Oak Ridge started as a residential area around the Oak Ridge laboratories, as of course you do need people to work at those laboratories. So at some point, the government came along and said, hey, this area of your state is off limits, just letting you know. And the governor, he didn't even know what was going on there. So he got mad, saying they stole all this land from the farmers. But really, the town of Oak Ridge, it's astonishing. It became a city overnight, having paved roads, houses, and grocery stores. So that coined the term Atomic City, or the Secret City. Let's discuss the labs. As the usual secretive governmental facility, it is fenced off with barbed wire, with guards standing on post all 24 hours. And great secretive policies to their own officials and also the employees working there. Not even the employees were actually allowed to talk about what's going on in the labs to their spouse or something. So even talking to someone outside the lab about what's going on in the lab would be considered treason, and treason means death. So that applies during the war, actually. So maybe after the war, you could actually talk to them about what was going on. Now, Louis Morton of Foreign Affairs actually dug up some more information about his experiences in there. And then he discovered that development of the atomic bomb and atomic energy was being developed as early as 1939. After the bombing of Japan, it was revealed to the public about what Oak Ridge was really doing behind all that barbed wire and secrecy. A part of that secrecy, all of that was mostly hidden behind the scientists, because only the scientists at the building of the atomic bomb, only the scientists knew what was being built. Everyone else didn't know what they were actually making. But overall, the Manhattan Project was really good for Oak Ridge, and as a result, it experienced great growth, and at its peak had approximately 89,000 residents. In 1952, President Harry Truman sent a letter talking about the atomic bomb. He sent a letter to Professor Kate. Professor Kate and Truman have been actually corresponding to each other for some time. And in this letter, Truman reveals his meeting with his advisors over dropping the atomic bomb. The questions he asked are more about the number of casualties on the American side and how much it would cost. And of course, where to drop the bomb in Japan. So, of course, it was decided Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the two decided cities. And lastly, he said first, before dropping the bomb, there would be an ultimatum. And after they rejected it, he ordered the drop of the atomic bomb. In that early summer morning, before the explosion, it was a raid warning. They chose to ignore it. But when the explosion happened, within an hour, the city was filled with heat, as described by Father John Simes, who is a professor at Tokyo's Catholic University. He says, "I am bleeding from cuts about the hands and head. He then goes on to describe the further destruction in the environment. I honestly added on to this just for effect, even though I have done research off and on. Meanwhile, after the news reached Oak Ridge and just the United States in general, they ran to the city center and celebrated in the streets. It was a madhouse. While still talking about the labs, I can say for a fact that they are still used today. And also, they've been known to help out and assist the Tennessee Valley Association, TVA, the FDR era organization. I can say from secondhand experience that they have actually helped out college students with education via internships. And like every great town, they do have a museum dedicated to the history of their town and what they have done, and how the Manhattan Project helped start what we all know as today the Secret City.